Fuso is a tier 6 Japanese battleship, famously known for being the main test subject of the totally useful tutorial series. This is due to its distinctive design that is well ahead of its time, that worked so well. It inspires one of the best invention of the 20th century known as modern living. Surely, there has to be a good reason why it gets to such ridiculous height. Something to do with its 12-14-inch guns, like the Anhalt. The Fuso is a dreadnought, which means all the guns none of the brains, as shown with its mediocre accuracy and mediocre traverse speed. But thanks to the addition of the Tower of Babel, they now have 21 kilometers of range, outranging even some tier 8 ships. Talk about overkill. However, since the game dictates surface concealment based on the height of the ship, no one could miss this 40 meters of erectile dysfunction. How bad, you may ask? Well, how about being between the best and the worst battleship in the game? This means it will be spotted practically all the time by literally every other ship. Fortunately, we've reached a point where terrible concealment on a battleship isn't that much of a problem anymore. In fact, it may even be a good thing, especially if the ship had all the reason to be focused, and the Fuso delivers on that front. It has 35mm deck, which by the way, is much thicker than the succeeding ships, and there isn't much superstructure that covers it. This means more bounces and over-penetrations, but being a dreadnought means it also has these dreaded casemate secondaries that only works as an additional place for shells to penetrate. So if you think you have angled correctly, think again. Before we talk about how it plays, we must first understand the dispersion behavior of the Fuso, and basically how dispersion works in general. First, you have the maximum horizontal and vertical dispersion. This is how far the shells would spread from the center, and it increases with range linearly, well, most of the time. And then there is the sigma value, which is the tendency of the shells to land closer to the center. This is the dispersion value of the Fuso. Let's compare it to its American counterpart. Notice that the Fuso has a smaller horizontal and higher vertical dispersion. This means the dispersion pattern will look more like a circle rather than an oval. Not exactly ideal when you want to hit broadsides. But then it gets even worse. The 1.5 sigma means most of the shells will be allergic to whatever it is you're aiming. So instead of a circle, the real dispersion will look more like a donut instead. If you ever wondered why the shells often lands around the ship, nope, this is what happened. You can blame the so-called aimbot however you want, but no matter how hard you try, there is no beating the RNGesus when it decides to ruin your games. But hey, just don't tell anyone when RNG helps you. That way you can maintain the status quo and feel better about yourself. Now that you understand how the game gaslights you, here is the standard procedure of operating the Fuso. You show broadside, you shoot, you point your bow directly ahead during the reload, and repeat the process. The important part is to time the reload, so it's being done when the enemy shoots. That way you will take 0 damage, or a superficial one if they got lucky, because you will be pointing the bow directly ahead. However, this cannot be done if you are facing a battleship that could overmatch your armor, as the Fuso has a very apparent weak point that can easily be exploited. So if you had to fight one, you had to do it from further back, to expose more of your horizontal armor, and take advantage of the increased dispersion over distance. But remember, this works both ways, so if you are facing something you cannot penetrate, consider switching to the best shell in the game. It has the highest HE shell alpha for its caliber, and while it has a drag coefficient of a brick, it makes up for it by having the steepest impact angle, coupled with its dispersion. Makes it very effective at countering any angled battleship, and all you need to do is to lead further, or you could just let the game decides where to land your shots. Despite having the range to hit anything on the map, the battleship Fuso is not a sniper, and shooting over 20 kilometers simply means a higher chance at hitting a fish instead of a ship. The only use for such range is sniping equal tier flat tops, and you really want to focus them, so there is one less headache for later part of the game. The ideal range is 14 kilometers and closer. Remember, the dispersion gets tighter the closer you are to the enemy, and as long as you keep maneuvering between reloads, you will also become harder to hit by torpedoes. By being a tier 6, the Fuso also had the luxury of getting these low tier maps. They are small in size and have lots of short islands. This allows you to shoot behind cover, and if you are lucky, you can be invisible. What is even logic at this point? Stay heavily angled and leave lower tier ships as cannon fodder when the game is about to end. The Fuso is not hard to play, and this is mainly due to tier 6 balancing. Most tier 6 ships lack standout features or gimmicks that would either give them an absolute edge, or allowing them to get away scot-free. Think of the lack of repair party on cruisers, radar, and battleships being inaccurate in general. The Fuso may not have the best accuracy, but everything else in tier 6 aren't capable enough to fight a Fuso either, unless they are also employing the very same tactic as you are, and at that point we might as well question why even bother continuing. It's only when fighting the oddballs and higher tier ships, where it becomes necessary to employ unconventional tactics such as role-playing as a super heavy cruiser, and you know how this works a million times already. The Fuso is a ship equivalent of a comfort food. You know what to expect, and you can do whatever you want with it. And even if the game still punishes you despite your efforts to do everything correctly, you won't feel too bad about it, because at that point you have already won the game. You know what else that won't make you feel bad? Avoiding the rods of gods. This is how you build the bully victim. You take emergency repair, grease the gears, basics of survivability, and the other emergency repair, then take fire prevention, improved repair party readiness, adrenaline rush, and finally expert loader. For the upgrades you take main armament mod 1, damage control 1, aiming system, and damage control 2. The Fuso is once again another old ship that was so good, it becomes boring. And this video is more about a refresher of what people had already know about, rather than showing new revolutionary way to play. So why did I bother with a video at all? Well, it's because of this. I present to you a 1:625 scale model of the Fuso, based on the one from the game, completely remodeled from the ground up, so I can modify it into a model kit that can be 3D printed and assembled. So how did I get here? Long story short, about 2 months ago I felt that this game is not working for me no matter how hard I try, and I hate forcing myself like this, so I dropped the game and bought myself a 3D printer. After some tinkering and making random prints, I decided that I wanted to make a printable warship model that can be shared with others, and I choose the Fuso as the candidate. But why the Fuso? Why not something more famous instead? Well, I think the Fuso is an amazing looking ship, and the way it's built presents a nice challenge for me and the printer. I spent well over a month modeling, and while compromises has to be made due to technical limits, I made sure most of the features on the ship were well defined. You might ask, why not just buy an existing kit? Better yet, why not use a proper printer for the job? And you'll be correct, but where is the fun in that? I simply think this is cool, and I also want to put my own twist to the model. It has been a fun process. It even rekindled my interest with the game, resulting on this very video. It features rotatable turrets, a seaplane launcher, and notches on the pieces to make assembly easier. And yes, these pieces are modular, so you can make your own Fuso configuration, and of course, infinitely stack them. Additionally, I've also made the lower hull, mainly to avoid the waterline allegations, along with a folded pedestal that doubles as a plaque holder. Both are separate print, so you can use different colors. The end product is a model ship that is quick to assemble, and are good enough to be displayed as it is, with some form of interactivity. You can get this model at a low cost of absolutely nothing. Printer not included. I've put a link in the description that brings you to my MakerWorld page, where you will also find instructions on printing and assembly. If you like to see more of this, you can support my work through Patreon. I'm doing this to ease out my hyperfixation to this game, and I think it's working very well, so I will probably do more of this in the future. Feedbacks are appreciated, and maybe suggest me some print ideas, as long as it's warship related. I got carried away on making this project, so my apology for vanishing. I should really streamline my workflow. Anyway, have a good day, and see you on the next one.